The town of Alice Springs was once the quaint capital of Australia's Red Centre. But today, Alice is caught in a spiral of alcohol-fuelled violence and crime. It was highlighted earlier this month when 2 foreign tourists were allegedly attacked and raped while sleeping in their car. Aborigines are blamed for much of the trouble and they say it's time to tackle the root causes. But residents just want a crackdown, as Mike Sexton reports.
Winter has arrived in Central Australia, and each evening as the sun drops, so does the mercury. The night brings with it sub-zero temperatures and a full police contingent onto the streets of Alice Springs.
Yeah, Roger, the Jazz supervisor will sort all that out for me, thanks.
Recently, 14 new police recruits have arrived in Alice Springs in an effort to get on top of a crime spree that's eating away at the town. On this shift, police are confronted with the gruesome consequences of a night of heavy drinking.
It's obviously just a head wound, it's bleeding quite profusely. We've got a bandage on and applied the pressure. It stopped bleeding. He's conscious, talking, he's intoxicated. Obviously the urgency level is probably not his first thought. Unfortunately, the sad fact is assaults are quite common in these areas. As you can see, there's no formal housing established here. It's a camp-type facility.
Emergency service workers take the injured man to hospital while 2 suspects are detained, all overseen by the Northern Territory's Police Commissioner, John McRoberts.
There has been social dysfunction in Alice Springs for well over 30 years. This is not a new or emerging issue. This is a situation that has flourished for many years. I have heard loud and clear the message from the citizens of Alice Springs that they're fed up with the situation in the town.
So if we get an emergency in the middle of the night, we're going to have to put someone on the couch. Yeah.
Dale Wakefield runs a high-security shelter for women and children fleeing domestic violence. If this year is like the last, then the facility will house almost 900 people, 95% of whom will be Indigenous.
What we're finding is that our self-referrals to the service have gone in 4 years from 12% to 58% of all our referrals. So women are really seeking a service and are seeking a place of safety, which we feel is very positive, but I think it does show that there is a large unmet demand out there.
Although Alice Springs is a town worn down by daily crime, a recent event shocked even its most hardened citizens.
The spiralling crime rate in Alice Springs continued overnight. The women have told police they were sleeping in their car when they were attacked by 3 men.
The alleged rape at gunpoint of 2 European backpackers has led to 3 teenagers being detained.
Let's hope that it's a one-off, but it is an escalation.
Steve Brown is born and bred in Alice Springs and successfully ran for the town council on a law and order ticket. While he applauds the police commissioner's visit, he believes the recent crackdown must become permanent.
We're looking to the police to do that all the time, not some of the time. We have a sort of a boom and bust cycle where they police and they say, look, we've quietened it all down, they pack everything up and they go back to Darwin, and then they wait until we're in an absolute crisis point again, which they've done to us this time, and now we really are in real crisis point. And they come back in and say they're going to rescue us again.
The Territory has more police per capita than any other jurisdiction in Australia. It also has the highest rate of recidivism in the country. And according to the Central Australian Aboriginal Legal Aid Service, imprisonment rates have increased by almost 50% in the past decade without having any impact on crime rates.
There's a disturbing sort of resignation about the fact that people may spend some time in custody. So it's arguably less of a deterrent in a jurisdiction like this where it's so common.
Many believe crime is the result of years of social neglect that's been accelerated by a population drift from remote communities into town and a baby boom in the 1990s that's produced a population bubble of teenagers.
Young adults in their early 40s and mid-40s are grandparents. Now that's a demographic and an identified need that, in my view, requires the government to have a differential response.
Indigenous leaders believe the crime rate will only fall when advances are made in disadvantaged communities. One of the most obvious is housing, and to illustrate the point, 730 was invited to one of the town camps, a 5-minute drive from the Alice Springs CBD.
We come to Hobbies Camp, and this is Dickie Brown's house. And all the time inside this house there's over 30 people. It's a 2-bedroom house.
As some adults sleep inside the house, outside in the freezing morning air, more than a dozen women and children eat breakfast, including Territory MP ALISON Anderson. Despite campaigning for better conditions, she's seen her grandnieces, such as Imogen, growing up in squalor.
They're still here. This is the sad thing, that they're still here living in the same situation as they was living in 3 years ago. And I think if we're serious about closing the gap in Aboriginal disadvantage, then there has to be a serious consultation with people.
The 17 town camps are where people from remote communities stay when they come to Alice Springs for services. Among them are young people, often looking for excitement in town.
We moved on to kids, more activities at night for kids. I think mothers and fathers not controlling, or they're not boss themselves, kids.
The federal and territory governments have spent millions of dollars upgrading some houses and building new ones, but housing is only one disadvantage. Others are education, health and employment, which is why a group of Indigenous service agencies have formed a coalition to better address social issues.
For me, I think it's about embracing where governments have made positive change, but they have to equally recognise where that positive change and the impact of years of neglect and failure of services and programs is now at a point where it's escalating beyond everyone's capacity, and we have to work collaboratively to address it.
There are 190 officers for the estimated 27,000 people who call Alice Springs home. The police are not commenting on whether or not they're having ongoing extra operations, but their chief officer believes their most important task is building a foundation for social reform.
The future of Alice Springs lies in all of our hands. If we don't do anything about it, if we don't give this a go, I suspect that in 12 months' time we'll be saying the same thing as they were 30 years ago, and I don't think that's good enough.
Mike Sexton reporting.